Okay, hi. Welcome to Writing Advice, episode 1. So, today I'm going to be talking about how I personally start drafting stories, and I'm going to give a couple of examples as I go along. So, please keep in mind that I am by no means a professional. I'm just someone that would like to share my perspective to the general public. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. So one thing that I do when writing characters is that I'm I start building my story off of my characters and not building my characters off my story. Wait. I use my characters to like build my story and not the other way around. So like let's think of okay, let's say I want to write a story, right? So first I'll decide, I'll be like, what genre do I want my story to be in? So let's say I want it to be in thriller or like horror or something like that. So now I have to think. Okay, so what's the type of horror? Is it a horror where it's like some Jeepers Creepers thing, or is it like some thing like some Pennywise thing where it's just something that exists, or is the killer a person, like an actual person? So I don't like writing about things that don't exist. So I'll say that the killer is a person. So let's say my killer is a person, right? So what is this person's name? So are they male or they female? So I'll go with a male killer. So is he's male? What's his name? Let's say his name is um Gaylord Gaylord Stewart. Okay, so we have Gaylord Stewart. So what's his thing? You see, most murderers in books I've read have something they always leave at the crime scene to identify that it was them. For some, it's a playing card. Others, it's a message like an encrypted message. Some leave nursery, right? That was like in the Batman movie. I don't know what movie that was. The perpetrator left a nursery, right? So for this one, let's say he takes something from one of the victims. Let's say he takes the head. So it's saying he or all his bodies are decapitated. So decapitated. Okay. So now, what's his alias? What do the police know him as? Right. So let's say they know him as the Midnight Murderer. So Midnight Murderer. So let's say the reason why they call him the Midnight Murderer is because all his murders happen before the stroke of midnight. So why they happen? So why did? So now we can look at his motive. Why does he murder? So a lot of motives that could be maybe he's trying to get revenge on something or something like that. But the motive that I would like to use is that he, let's say he has bipolar, so like he has two sides. So during the day he's Gaylord, and during the night he's the Midnight Murderer. So that could be his motive. So let's say he's bipolar. So motive, we can put it as bipolar. So now that we have the motive for the killer, we can start to draw out some interesting things. So we can start to look at how he gets caught and also more elements. So let's say we have the first character, right? Let's look at another character. So actually, we're not yet done with character. So what does Gaylord do during the day? Because he can't just be a regular, like just walking around and then at night he's a murderer. So let's say he's very intelligent. That's why the police failed to catch him, right? So let's say intelligent people. Let's say he's a lecturer, like a professor, a college professor. So what does he lecture about? What does he teach? Let's say he teaches behavioral psychology or any form of psychology. That's why he's able to outsmart the police because he studied psychology. So that could be the reason for uh how he gets away with his crimes and also gives him a place to be during the day. So now we can look at something else like, does he know about the Midnight Murderer? Does he know he has two sides or does he not know? I find it more interesting if you put it as he doesn't know that he is um a murderer. But what would you think? Would you put it that he knows he's a murderer or he doesn't know he's a murderer? Please let me know down in the comments. I'd like to know. And also, if you would like to continue, watching videos about me talking about writing and other things, writing stories, novels, scripts, and everything in between, please subscribe. Okay, so like I was talking about his day job. So his day job, we said he's a psychology professor. So now you can think of a place, a university. So where does he teach psychology? So it's we can make up a university that doesn't exist, like um let's say Adidas University. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything else. So let's say Adidas University or AU. So he teaches at AU and he teaches psychology. So who figures out that he's the midnight murderer? Like, let's say one of his students figures it out. One of his students sees the case on the news and finds it interesting and decides to investigate the case by themselves. And then they manage to figure out that it's Gaylord. So let's name this character maybe Stacy. So Stacy is in his class. So now, does Mr. Gaylord help her with the investigation? Let's say he does. Let's put it as the Midnight Murderer knows everything Mr. Gaylord knows, but Mr. Gaylord doesn't know anything the Midnight Murderer knows, meaning he wouldn't know he's the murderer. But the Midnight Murderer knows he's the murderer. So think of it like two people in one person. So there's two personalities. One knows. So I'll put it in simpler terms so I don't have to say Midnight Murderer and Gaylord all the time. So let's say the Midnight Murderer is dark and Gaylord is light. So light doesn't know what dark knows, but dark knows what light knows. I don't know if you understand that analogy. Yes. So he joins the investigation because he's a concerned citizen, because he doesn't know he's the murderer. So they join the investigation together, and this is a bad thing for the Midnight Murderer. So now, does Mr. Gaylord get arrested there and then after Stacy gets close to finding out that it is Gaylord, or does the Midnight Murderer get to her before she can tell the police that, okay, no, Mr. Gaylord is the murderer? I'm going to say Midnight Murderer gets to her first. So and during all this, you have to keep in mind that as the investigations are going on, is Mr. Gaylord an obvious suspect, or is the person most people least expect? You take it into more of a, where the person you think is the killer is not the killer, and the killer is the person you least expect. Like a friend of mine read this book called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, I think. I'll put the name in the description. Yeah, I'll put the name in the description and the title of the book series. So he told me that in the book, the murderer was the person that everyone least expected. Like, no one expected this person to be the murderer, but that person ended up being the murderer. So I'm saying this all from hearing from friends. I don't actually write thriller novels or read them, to be honest, but I'm just trying to do this from the research I've done and from the way I build characters. I'm just using it in a thriller's perspective, but this is the way I build characters. And sometimes if I don't use this method, I use this other method, which is basically I write down every single character, every single main character that I'm going to have. So I'll just start. All right, main character, main characters. So I'll start. There'll be, let's say I'm writing a story about a girl named Tracy. So I'll write her name, Tracy Watkins. So Tracy Watkins. How old is she? Let's say she's 18. What race is she? Let's say she's white. How tall is she? Let's say she's 5'9". You see, I put all the information down on every single character. So when I'm describing the characters in the book, I can just go back to my list of characters and, I can look back and say, oh, okay, so Tracy, she's 18. Okay, Tracy's white. Okay, when I'm describing her, I haven't described their physique. So so this physique, I could say maybe athletic build. So I would say it was easy for her because she always had an athletic build. Like, let's say she's trying running for the first time, and I say it was not that hard for her because she always had an athletic build. I feel like this method helps me a lot when it comes to writing, and I think you should all try it where you write your characters down. Like when I first started writing, I would just start writing. I'll just get my book or my pen, or if I'm using a laptop, I just get my laptop and just start typing. I just say, okay, so in the land of blah 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 blah, there was a man named I think of a generic name like David. So David's blah 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 blah. And then sometimes I'll get stuck on the description. So when I make a list or a description of every single character, I'm picturing the characters in my head as I write. So it's very easy for me to picture everything. Because when I'm writing, I picture the environment, the scenarios, I picture how they look, how they would make a specific expression. So when I say she grimaced in my head, the picture or the picture of Tracy would be in my head, and I would see her grimacing, which is very good. And I've seen some books that do this, some Wattpad books that do this. It's very good. I'd like to do it on my own books where they would add an aesthetic of every single character. So let's say, okay, if you could just go on Pinterest right now and just search some random book character that you know, and then write aesthetic, and then you can see like how the writer was, planning to describe them. Like after I finished reading God of Malice by Rina Kent, I highly recommend that book. I went on Pinterest and searched Killian Carson aesthetic. I saw it and I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. I searched the Glendon Killian aesthetic. It made a whole lot more sense. So I would like to do that on my books instead of making my readers go and look it up. So I'd put like an aesthetic for each of the main characters in my future books. But yeah, that's the basic advice I can give you in this first episode on how to build a story from characters and not how to build your characters from your story. So thank you very much for watching this video. And like I said at the beginning, I am not an expert in writing. I am very much a beginner, actually. I'm just, trying to add my voice on the particulars of writing. And I like talking a lot. I like talking about writing and other things. So please, if you find this video interesting and you'd like to see more stuff like this, you can subscribe. And I actually don't only talk about books, I also talk about script writing because I'm learning how to be a screenwriter. And I'm also talking about series and movies. Like when I watch a movie or series, I analyze it from the psychological point. So this is like an all-in-one channel. I would make two channels, but I don't have enough subscribers on this one to even start a new one. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.